Alex Eala just a few days ago, she spent the day practicing on the red clay at Roland Garros, posting a few photos with friends, and then going to sleep early because in roughly 48 hours, she has to walk onto one of the biggest stages in tennis and play a match against someone who was at her birthday party in January. That someone is Iva Jovic, who is 18, ranked 20 spots higher, and has had one of the best seasons of any teenager on the WTA Tour. They have shared a doubles court, shared dinner tables, shared that particular kind of friendship that only exists between young players who are rising through the ranks at the same time and know exactly how lonely and exhilarating it all is. And now, in the first round of the French Open, they have to pretend none of that matters for about 2 hours. But here is what I want to talk about, and it has nothing to do with the friendship angle. That story will write itself. What I want to talk about is a specific 10-day window that I think has changed Alex Eala as a clay court tennis player, and why that change, small, quiet, easy to miss if you are only looking at results, is the single most important variable in this match. Because if you just scan the numbers, this looks straightforward. Jovic is seeded 17th. Eala is ranked 37th. Jovic made the 4th round in Rome and had Coco Gauff at match point. Eala lost in the first round of Strasbourg to a qualifier last week. On paper, this should be a comfortable Jovic win. And maybe it will be. But I do not think it is that simple, and I want to explain why. Let me take you back to May 5th in Rome. Eala walks onto the court against Magdalena Frech and promptly gets broken twice to start the match. She is down 0-3 on the red clay at the Foro Italico, which is not where you want to be if you're a player whose entire clay court history has been defined by early exits and uncomfortable body language. Through April, Eala's clay season had been rough. In Linz, she beat Julia Grabher in straight sets, but then lost to Elena Ostapenko in the second round. In Stuttgart, Leylah Fernandez took her apart 6-1, 6-4 in the first round. In Madrid, she beat Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, who is a former Roland Garros finalist, so that is not nothing, but then Elise Mertens demolished her 6-2, 6-1 in the very next round. The pattern was consistent. One decent win followed by a comprehensive loss to anyone with genuine clay court pedigree. For a player who grew up training at the Rafa Nadal Academy, who cites Nadal as her biggest inspiration, who has said publicly that conquering clay is her career mission, the results were a painful mismatch between aspiration and execution. And then something shifted in Rome. Down 0-3 to Frech, Eala did not retreat into the conservative, high-margin baseline tennis that she had been defaulting to on clay all spring. Instead, she started taking the ball earlier. She stepped inside the baseline on Frech's second serve. She redirected with her forehand, that left-handed forehand that is genuinely one of the best shot-making tools in the WTA's second tier right now, and she started dictating where rallies went instead of reacting to them. She won 4 straight games. She took the first set 6-0 after that 0-3 start. Frech fought back in the second, took it 6-3. And in the third, Eala held her nerve. Won it 6-4. It was her first career win in Rome at the WTA level. 2 days later, she faced Wang Xinyu, who had beaten her in the Auckland semi-finals back in January. Eala won 6-4, 6-3. She came back from 0-3 again in the opening set. Same pattern. Fell behind, adjusted, and then imposed herself. It was the first time Eala had ever reached the third round of a WTA 1000 event on clay. Then she ran into Elena Rybakina, who was the second-ranked player in the world and playing some of the best tennis of anyone on tour, and lost 4-6, 3-6. That loss does not bother me. Rybakina was beating everybody at that point. What matters is the 10 days between the Frech match on May 5th and the Rybakina loss on May 10th. In that window, Eala played 3 matches on red clay and did something she had never done before at this level on the surface. She competed like a player who believed she belonged. Not hoped. Not tried to convince herself. Actually believed it. The body language was different. The shot selection was different. She stopped trying to survive on clay and started trying to win on clay, and those are 2 completely different things. Now, Iva Jovic. I want to be careful here because Jovic is genuinely impressive, and it would be irresponsible to undersell what she has done this year. Her 2026 campaign has been outstanding. The Australian Open quarterfinal as an 18-year-old, beating Jasmine Paolini, who was the 7th seed, along the way, was a statement performance. She reached the Charleston semifinal on clay, which was her first major clay event, and pushed Jessica Pegula to 3 sets. In Madrid, she won 2 matches before Fernandez beat her in 3. And in Rome, she beat McCartney Kessler and Taylor Townsend before taking Coco Gauff to match point in the 4th round. She was serving for the match at 5-3 in the 2nd set. She had Gauff beaten, and she did not close it. That Rome match is going to hover over this draw like a shadow Jovic would prefer to ignore. Because the details matter. Jovic hit a tight forehand into the net on match point. Then she cut her finger after a fall on the clay, and the grip issue visibly affected her for the rest of the set. Gauff, who is one of the great competitors in the sport, seized on the wobble and ran away with the 3rd set 6-2. Jovic then went to Strasbourg and lost to Emma Navarro in 3 sets. 2 consecutive 3-set losses on clay heading into Roland Garros is not a crisis, but it is not ideal momentum either. Here is what I think matters tactically. Jovic's game is built on clean, athletic ball striking from the baseline. Her forehand is a weapon, powerful, direct, and she can flatten it or put significant topspin on it, depending on the situation. Her backhand is more of a control shot, but it is deeply consistent. She has good tactical intelligence. She thinks about patterns, she varies height and pace, and she is not just a ball basher. But on clay specifically, she has only been playing the surface competitively for about 5 years. She told press in Charleston that she did not even know what clay was until she was 13. That is a remarkable admission for someone ranked in the top 20, and it shows both in her movement, which is improving rapidly but still not instinctive, and in her occasional struggles to manage the slower, higher-bouncing rallies that clay produces. Now consider what Eala brings to this specific matchup. Eala is left-handed. On clay, left-handed topspin is a genuine nightmare for right-handed players because the ball kicks into the body on the backhand side in a way that hard courts do not replicate as aggressively. Eala's forehand, which she uses to dictate rallies, generates heavy rotation. On clay, that rotation bites into the surface and kicks up higher. Against a player like Jovic, who prefers to take the ball at a comfortable contact point and rip clean through it, Eala's spin can disrupt timing in ways that are hard to prepare for in practice. You can drill against lefties all week and it still feels different in a match. The ball just comes at you from a different angle, and on clay, the angles widen. Eala also has a significant return of serve advantage in this matchup. This is something I have been watching closely all season. Eala's return game is arguably the strongest single component of her tennis. She reads serve direction early, she positions aggressively, and she can neutralize powerful first serves with a compact block return or step in and crack a forehand off a second serve. Jovic, by her own admission, is still refining her serve. Her first serve has improved this year. She was clocking around 140 kilometers per hour on average at the Australian Open, but her second serve remains a vulnerability. On clay, where the surface takes pace off the ball and gives the returner an extra fraction of a second, Eala could turn Jovic's service games into genuine battles. Jovic was broken repeatedly in her recent losses to Gauff and Navarro, and it is reasonable to think Eala will target the same area. And this is a significant, but Eala has to hold her own serve for any of that to matter. This is the persistent, well-documented limitation in her game. She routinely serves below 90 miles per hour on her first serve, which is considerably below the tour average of around 105. On clay, where the surface absorbs pace, a slow serve becomes even slower by the time the opponent makes contact. Jovic is an excellent returner herself, with quick footwork and the ability to step in on anything she can read. If Eala cannot generate enough free points on serve to stay competitive in her service games, the return advantage becomes irrelevant because she is constantly playing from behind. In Rome, Eala's serve was better than it had been in Stuttgart or Madrid. She was placing it more thoughtfully, using the wide serve to the deuce court especially well against Wang Xinyu, and she was varying her second serve between slice and kick instead of just floating the same ball into the service box every time. Whether she can sustain that against a player of Jovic's caliber is the open question. It is one thing to serve well against Freck and Wang Xinyu. It is another to serve well when an 18-year-old with serious power is stepping in on every ball and the scoreboard is tight. There is also the matter of what Roland Garros does to a tennis match versus what Rome does. They are both clay, but they are not the same clay. The courts at Roland Garros tend to play a touch slower and heavier than Rome. The Parisian clay is slightly deeper in many conditions, which means the ball sits up more and rewards topspin even further. For Eala, this is potentially beneficial. Her left-handed spin becomes more exaggerated. Her forehand kicks higher. For Jovic, it means one more millisecond of adjustment, one more degree of unfamiliarity on a surface she is still learning to trust. I keep returning to that word, trust. When Jovic had match point against Goff in Rome and hit that forehand into the net, it was not a technical failure. She can hit that shot. She has hit it thousands of times. It was a moment where her body was in an unfamiliar context, clay, high stakes, serving for the biggest win of her career, and some tiny, unconscious part of her muscle memory hesitated. Clay demands a specific kind of trust in your footwork, in your balance, in the knowledge that the surface will give you what you need if you commit to the shot. Players who grew up on clay have that trust baked into their bones. Jovic is building it in real time, match by match, and that is admirable. But it also means that in a pressure moment against an awkward, left-handed opponent who generates unusual spin angles, there is a risk that the trust breaks down. Eala has a different trust problem. Hers is not about the surface. It is about whether the version of herself that showed up in Rome is the version that will show up in Paris. Because the version that showed up in Strasbourg, losing in 3 sets to a qualifier ranked outside the top 150, was the old clay Eala. Tentative. Reactive. Waiting for the opponent to miss rather than creating opportunities. The gap between those two versions is where this match lives. If Eala plays the way she played in the 3rd set against Freck, stepping in, taking the ball early, using her forehand to push Jovic backward, she has a real chance. If she plays the way she played against Oleinikova in Strasbourg, she will lose in straight sets, and it will not be particularly close. I want to pick a winner here, and I am going to, but I want to be honest about the confidence level. Jovic should win this match. She is ranked higher, she has had the better overall season, she has beaten stronger opponents, and she has the firepower to overwhelm Eala if the serve is working and the forehand is finding its targets. My pick is Jovic in 3 sets. I think Eala takes a set, probably the first, when the nerves of playing a friend and the awkwardness of the left-handed spin create some early discomfort for Jovic, and then Jovic adjusts, finds her range, and her superior power and depth gradually wear Eala down. But I want to explain what would have to happen for Eala to win, because I think it is a scenario that is more plausible than the ranking gap suggests. If Eala can hold serve at a rate above 60%, which she did in Rome against both Freck and Wang Xinyu, and if she can push 65% or more of rallies past 9 shots, she will be in Jovic's head. Jovic is not comfortable grinding on clay yet. Her instinct is to end points. She wants to step in and rip the forehand. When rallies extend, her movement on clay is good but not great. She slides well going to her right, but she is still developing the instinct to slide going to her left, which is her backhand side, exactly where Eala's left-handed forehand will push the ball. If Eala can force Jovic into long rallies on the backhand side, make her hit one more ball than she wants to hit, and then find a moment to change direction with that forehand inside out, she can win this match. The friendship makes this strange. They played doubles together in Auckland 5 months ago and saved 7 set points to beat Filipina and Venus Williams. They teamed up again in Indian Wells. They know each other's games not as opponents, but as partners. Eala knows where Jovic likes to serve under pressure. Jovic knows Eala's tendencies on return. All of that intel is suddenly weaponized, which is a word I do not use lightly, but it is accurate. When you have stood next to someone and watched them hit hundreds of balls, you have information that a normal opponent would not have. Whether either player can actually use that information without it feeling wrong is a different question, and one that no pre-match analysis can answer. What I can say is this: if you are watching this match and you want to understand what is really happening underneath the scoreline, watch Eala's feet in the first 3 games. If she is stepping inside the baseline on return, if she is taking position a half step forward of where she normally stands, she has decided to play the Rome version of herself. That is the version that gives Jovic problems. If she is hanging back, 2 feet behind the baseline, absorbing pace and redirecting, she has decided to play safe, and Jovic will recognize it immediately and start teeing off. And watch Jovic's second serve at 30 all or deuce. That is where her serve has let her down on clay this season. When the point matters and she cannot rely on a first serve ace to bail her out, where does the second serve go? Does she put it into the body, which is the safe play? Or does she trust her kick serve out wide, which is the aggressive play but requires her to trust her feet and her balance on a surface that has betrayed her at the worst possible moments? The answer to that question will tell you who wins. This is not a match where one player is dramatically better than the other. It is a match between 2 young women in the process of building themselves, and the French Open is asking them both a question they have not yet fully answered. For Jovic, the question is whether she can convert her obvious physical talent into sustained success on a surface she barely knew existed 5 years ago. For Eala, the question is whether the growth she showed in Rome was a temporary spike or the beginning of something permanent. Roland Garros does not care about their friendship. It does not care about their rankings. It will take 2 hours, maybe 3, and by the end, one of them will have her answer. I think it is Jovic. But I would not bet the house on it.